Expectations are high in the NASCAR Cup Series. What have you done for me lately? Which star drivers are on the hot seat going into 2024? How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. The new year is nearly upon us. Which NASCAR Cup Series stars are on the hot seat heading into 2024? On the hot seat. You know, I've never actually stopped to think about where that phrase comes from. Let me Google. Oh. My bad, that's kind of dark. Today's episode is not quite that serious, but I thought it would be interesting to look at some Cup Series drivers who are facing a ton of pressure. For one reason or another, they need to step up in 2024. Their jobs may depend on it. I've created 4 different categories, 4 different levels of hotness. Let's start over here, kind of test the waters a bit. We don't want to burn ourselves too quickly here. In the lukewarm category, this is more like my honorable mention category. Drivers who may not be in any real danger of losing their rides this season, but who for one reason or another are feeling extra pressure to perform this coming season. Let's start with Alex Bowman. Now, Alex Bowman is under contract through 2026. Ally has a multi-year agreement still with the team, so I think his job is fairly secure, at least for the short term. But Alex Bowman, even when 100% healthy, I believe is the 4th most talented driver at Hendrick Motorsports. And I don't think that's much of an insult, considering Hendrick Motorsports may have the strongest overall driver lineup in the Cup Series today. Most importantly, I hope Alex Bowman is 100% healthy, because if you look at the numbers this past season, pre-injury and post-injury, the difference is night and day. I don't think Alex Bowman is on the hot seat just yet, but he needs a good 2024 to keep that hype train on the rails and maybe cool things down, ease some of that lingering pressure. Next driver I'd like to discuss is Austin Dillon. Obviously, his grandfather owns the team. I think his job is fairly secure. But 2023 was arguably the worst season of Austin Dillon's Cup Series career. I actually think Austin Dillon, by and large, is underrated by most NASCAR fans. He's made the playoffs 5 of the past 8 seasons in RCR equipment, which I don't think any of us consider to be consistently elite. He's a solid race car driver, but now that Kyle Busch is there, at some point I wonder if Austin Dillon will feel pressure to get out of the seat and move into a more corporate role, the same way his father, Mike Dillon, eventually did, the same way his father's father, Richard Childress, eventually did. If Austin Dillon wants to quiet that conversation, he needs to have a big 2024. Next driver is Austin Cindric. Similar to Austin Dillon, I think Cindric's family connections mean his job is fairly safe for the time being. But Cindric suffered a severe sophomore slump this past season. His number of top 5s dropped from 5 down to 1. His average finish got worse. His points finish got much worse. We know Austin Cindric is a good road course racer. He had a top 10 at Chicago, top 10 at COTA this past season, but he's got to figure out the ovals. I know his father, Tim Cindric, is an important executive at Team Penske, but even Cole Custer, whose father works at Stewart-Haas, got demoted back down to the Xfinity Series after a couple bad Cup seasons. So while Cindric's seat may not be hot, it's at least lukewarm. And then lastly, I feel obligated to mention Chris Buescher, even though he's coming off a fantastic 2023 that saw him win 3 races and make the round of 8. The reason I mention Buescher is because after doing some Googling, I believe his contract expires at the end of this year. I believe Fastenal's contract expires as well. Obviously, anytime you're in a contract year, there's going to be added pressure to perform, but I would be shocked if RFK went a different direction considering the numbers Chris Buescher just put up. Looking back at my hotness scale, that was the lukewarm category. Now, let's start to spice things up. I think Todd Gillan is sweating a little bit. Front Row Motorsports usually waits until November, December, or even later to announce their driver lineup. They confirmed Todd Gillan to the 38 back in August. That, I think, says something about their feelings towards Todd Gillan. They have plenty of confidence. And for good reason. This past season, Todd Gillan improved his average starting position, he improved his average finish, he doubled the number of top 10s he recorded his rookie season. Very solid 2023, but the reason I say he's sweating just a bit is because while we don't know the exact terms of his deal with Front Row Motorsports, I think it's likely a one-year agreement. That's how Front Row historically has always operated. And while sure, they've expressed more confidence in Todd Gillan lately, they already showed us this past season that if another driver and sponsor comes along, they'll move Todd Gillan out of that seat for a few races. So yeah, there is a ton of pressure on Todd Gillan, I believe, to go out and continue to improve. You know, the start of 2023 was really good. Todd Gillan had 3 top 10s the first 10 races of this past season. He only had 1 top 10 finish the rest of the way. So he had a good 2023 considering expectations, but he didn't finish as strong as he started. So there is some concern there. I think Todd Gillan is sweating just a bit going into 2024. Another driver who I believe is already sweating is Ryan Preece. We don't exactly know Ryan Preece's contract either, but he was, I believe, on a 1-year deal in 2023, so again, more than likely, another 1-year agreement. There's been tons of turnover at Stewart-Haas Racing in recent years. They're not afraid to move a different direction if they don't like where things are at. I think Ryan Preece has the potential to basically explode. I really liked what I saw from Preece at the end of 2023. He had 5 top 15 finishes in the final 8 races. Overall, the season was a bit disappointing. His numbers really didn't look that different from what Cole Custer was doing in that car the year previously, but Preece did lead more laps. I think he led nearly 150 laps last season. A lot of changes at Stewart-Haas Racing. Everyone's looking for that next leader. I think Chase Briscoe, who's actually been there the longest of the group, all eyes are on him first. But Ryan Preece is a bit older and actually has more Cup experience than Chase Briscoe. Who's to say he doesn't emerge as Stewart-Haas's new performance leader? It's very possible, but with how tumultuous things seem to be at Stewart-Haas Racing right now, I think it's safe to say Preece is sweating a bit. He brought United Rentals over as a major primary sponsor, but if you look at 2023, he still had a lot of races sponsored by Haas CNC Tooling. With Kevin Harvick gone, I think there's pressure on all 4 Stewart-Haas drivers to step up. Ryan Preece is the most veteran Cup Series driver of the group. I think expectations are high. Let's keep things moving. Ooh, it's getting steamy in here. I believe Daniel Suarez's seat is boiling. Yeah, I believe Daniel Suarez is on the hot seat. And I know some fans will say, what? No, he's not. Trackhouse built the team around him. Pitbull, invested in, became an ambassador largely because Daniel Suarez is there. Trackhouse isn't gonna drop Daniel. You may be right, but Trackhouse is already much bigger than they were 3 years ago when Daniel Suarez first took over the 99. They have 2 cars now, and one of those cars, the one driven by Ross Chastain, has already made it to a championship 4. They've got a 3rd temporary car that last season pulled off one of the biggest wins in modern NASCAR history, driven by Shane Van Gisbergen, who's under contract. They're collaborating with Spire and colleagues. Zane Smith, another young driver, is now with the team. Trackhouse is going MotoGP racing next year. So this is a very different team. I believe a much larger operation now than it was when Daniel Suarez was just the guy. To put it simply, Trackhouse has 4 legit drivers under contract and only 2 Cup Series seats. Now, could they find a charter somewhere else or lease a charter for a 3rd entry? That is certainly possible. But assuming Trackhouse stays at 2 in the NASCAR Cup Series, yeah, Daniel Suarez is on the hot seat. If he continues to lag behind his teammate Ross Chastain, Trackhouse may be forced to have some tough conversations. And they will be tough conversations because I believe Daniel Suarez is under contract past this season. Maybe it's a team option. I don't know the details. Of course, they're never made public. Suarez missed the playoffs this past year, made some mistakes down the stretch. Can't do that again next season. I don't think you can go winless another year while your teammate Ross Chastain continues to put up a crooked number and expect to keep that seat. At some point, Trackhouse will begin to have, again, difficult conversations. So I think Daniel Suarez is absolutely on the hot seat. It's boiling. It's steamy in here. Whew. But there's one driver out there who I believe has an even greater fire underneath them, and that is Harrison Burton. Things are scorching over there at the 21 team. Remember, there were reports this past summer that the Wood brothers were 50-50 on Harrison Burton even for this season. They've chosen to bring Burton back for 2024, but I mean, it's time to put up or shut up. Harrison Burton was always going to be a long-term project. he's still only 23 years old. He's young, he's inexpensive, he brought some sponsorship. It makes sense still why the Wood brothers chose to go this direction, but now 2 years into his Cup Series career, he's shown little to no real improvement. I really thought they were onto something early this year with that top 10 performance at Darlington, but it didn't take long for the performance to just plummet once again. 2 top 10s each of his first 2 seasons, but this year his average finish actually dropped by a little bit. There is a ton of pressure on Harrison Burton this year. Team Penske is giving him every chance they can to succeed. Remember, the Wood brothers have a pretty deep technical alliance with Team Penske, and at the end of this past season, Team Penske gave Harrison Burton a brand new crew chief, Jeremy Bullins. Jeremy Bullins has won with the Wood brothers before, back in the day with Ryan Blaney. He's won multiple races with Brad Keselowski. He won the Daytona 500 with Austin Cindric. He's a legit crew chief. No excuses for Harrison Burton this year. They've got to show improvement. He doesn't have to make the playoffs or even win a race, just show improvement. Significant improvement. I know it was the previous generation of car, but just 4 years ago, the Wood brothers made the playoffs with a driver who now can't find a ride in one of NASCAR's top 3 series, it seems. So that is not a bad car. That is not a bad team. Jeremy Bullins is not a bad crew chief. Harrison Burton is on the hot seat. That seat is scorching. Ow, oh my gosh. A lot of pressure on Harrison Burton to perform this season, or he may not be in the NASCAR Cup Series for much longer. It's a tough business. Professional sports, you gotta perform. Pressure is on for the 21 team this season. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Do you agree or disagree with any of my placements or analysis? It's tough because most NASCAR driver contracts are kept quiet, so I'm sure there's a couple other drivers out there who are on expiring deals who I just don't know about, we don't know about. So there's probably some drivers I missed, but let me know what you thought of the ones I chose to talk about. While you're down in the comments, leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new to the channel and love NASCAR, and a huge thank you to my very generous Patreon supporters. I will see you again very soon. Thanks for watching, y'all. I'll catch you in the next episode.